What's up, everyone? Brandon here. This is Brendan. Hi.
Hi.
We've been playing a lot of Fallout 76 lately. The beta, as you might be aware, just ended. It was open about 2 weeks, about 40 hours of uptime total. You and I spent quite a bit of time in there, obviously not the whole 40 hours.
Right.
And we have thoughts, quite a few thoughts. First of all, I'm curious, what are your impressions of the beta?
I think that a lot of my initial misgivings have somewhat evaporated on the kind of core Fallout exploration, finding a world and scavenging and stuff. But as far as the multiplayer side of things, I still haven't really found a reason of why I want to be in a group with other rando strangers.
I think Fallout 76 is stuck in this weird limbo, right? Where it's a single player story-driven game with multiplayer elements. It doesn't do either of those particularly well, right?
Yeah, I think it cut out the part it needed most for the single player to make room for the multiplayer, which wasn't fully realized.
Yeah, and granted, again, these are just initial impressions. None of this is like an official review from IGN or what have you. These are just our thoughts after playing it. But what I don't really understand about the game, I'm more curious about, is sort of the story has been pared back from a more traditional, open world story-driven Fallout game that we've all come to know and love, where you have branching dialogue options, you have choices to make, you can help one person, lose the other. Fallout 76 seems to really play in this, you're given an assignment from a holotape. Everything in the world is past tense, right? It all happened already. You're following a trail of breadcrumbs that people leave for you to get from point A to point B. And while it's suitable to get you through the levels as you power climb into more difficult and dangerous areas, it also kind of feels like you're left with this task list. Right?
Yeah, it is a big shopping list of like, I did find a faction to join. There's no one left alive in it, except for me and whoever else in the game wants to join that faction too.
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, we're dead, but you could help us by doing these things. I'm like, okay, I get some cool power armor out of it, sure, why not?
And the other side of that, the fact that there are no sort of sentient human NPCs left in the world, is that you're supposed to be able to interact with other players, right? The multiplayer is a huge aspect of it. To me, it doesn't feel all that meaningful. It feels like there are mechanical benefits to grouping up with people. You and I played together yesterday, and like it was super duper convenient to be able to just fast travel to you.
Yeah, like that part's great. Like even if you don't actually group, just having a friend on that server, you can just hop to just check out their base for a second, and then go do your own thing.
Like you were in an area that I hadn't been to yet, so I fast traveled to you and then went and touched all the different landmarks so I could fast travel to them later on. Like that's helpful. You can share perk cards, though I haven't really found that to be a super potent mechanic. And then there are other elements like grouping together to take down bigger things.
Right.
Admittedly, the AI in that game is not the best. So some of those massive monsters that you're supposed to need to fight with multiple people, I was able to just stand on a roof and shoot with a pistol until it finally laid down and stopped moving. Yeah,
some of the more humanoid-ish enemies can utilize cover to a somewhat extent. Yeah. But like the animals, just like a death claw will just try and charge at you. So if you get above it, it's like, oh, I guess I'll spit at you.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yesterday I was fighting two rad bears, or they're called
Yaoguai.
Yaoguai, thank you. I was going to butcher that so bad. I was fighting two Yaoguai, and they were coming at me, and I found this log, and I stepped over the log, and he was like, oh, well, I'm going to go around and get you. And then I stepped back over the log. He's like, oh, I got you now. And then I stepped back over and was able to just kill him with a pistol. Yeah, I Bugs Bunnied him. That's a little disappointing to me, but what I do think Fallout 76 does well is what Bethesda always does well, which is environmental storytelling. There are things scattered throughout the world that really tell a story of what happened before, the Great War and the bombs dropped and all that. You find like a skeleton sitting in a stairwell with a pack of cigarettes next to it in a high school, and you're like, well, kid's smoking in the stairwell, Or you find a skeleton in bed with like his hands caressing a mannequin, and you're like, oh, what's going on there? What was this all about? I
think actually that shocked me the most was that we had seen that like, oh, the Brotherhood of Steel is here, and so is the Enclave, and oh, there's a super mutant. Like, and at first I was like, why would you do that? But then like figuring out actually how that came about and the final moments of the Brotherhood's branch in here and like how they all died off, like seeing like you don't get to see we didn't really get to see what happened to Brotherhood when they first formed. We had like the Fallout 1 and the lore and the history, but like this is actually being able to fully realize, oh, well, maybe we just didn't hear about this stuff. And these are really interesting stories that you can find and see in the world. So like I was happy to like look over these things and find every little detail I could.
Yeah, I think that's my big thing too is West Virginia is very much the main character of Fallout 76. It's not you, it's not me or you. The players are discovering more about the character of West Virginia in Fallout 76. And granted, a lot of this is from very, very early impressions. You know, we've only played about 20 hours of it, and there's a lot more left to do. Our review will be a review in progress because we have to wait for the servers to turn on next week, November 14th. But you can, you know, come back then and find out our initial impressions, and then, of course, as we dive into more of the end game stuff, hopefully we get some more answers as to like how meaningful does multiplayer become, and
what do I do with that nuke I got in my hands?
Yeah, pretty much. So that's Brendan. Again, I'm Brandon, and these are our Fallout beta impressions. So for everything Fallout, you're already in the right place right here at IGN.